Philip, what prompted this decision by Donald Trump?
Well, according to the U.S. president himself in this letter sent directly to Kim Jong-Un, it was the hostility that the U.S. president detected in recent statements from Kim Jong-Un himself. Now, what that means is recent statements by the North Korean leader about the Vice President Mike Pence, and also a few days ago about the National Security Advisor John Bolton. These were insulting words on behalf of the North Korean leader, certainly in the view of the U.S. president, and that has led him to cancel this summit in Singapore on the 12th of June. It is, of course, not only that. One has to read between the lines in a letter like this one that clearly, by the way, partly was dictated by the U.S. president himself and not exclusively by his communications staff here. But what we're seeing here also is a president trying to get the upper hand because North Korea looked like, again, it was playing the games that most of the world knows that North Korea has done in the past. And this administration seems to have only just discovered that North Korea makes big promises and then very often walks away from those. And that is something that the U.S. administration seems to have only detected very recently. Hence why the U.S. president has tried to get the upper hand here by writing this letter directly to Kim Jong-un, telling him, first of all, that it is because of his words, his hostility in the recent statements, why he is cancelling this summit. There is a rather worrying element here also to this letter because Donald Trump mentions Kim Jong-un talking about his nuclear arsenal and his country's nuclear capabilities. The response from the U.S. president in this letter directly to Kim Jong-un is that the United States has a bigger and more powerful nuclear arsenal. I'm paraphrasing the letter here, and that he prays to God that the United States will never have to use it. Now, that's quite a statement coming from the U.S. president sent directly to the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un.
Exactly, Philip. I was going to ask you about that part of the letter. He reminds Kim of the U.S.'s, quote, massive and powerful, those are the exact words, U.S. Nuclear arsenal. Is that a threat?
Well, you can only see it as a threat when the U.S. president says he prays to God that the United States will never have to use that nuclear arsenal. That's a bit of a threat there from the U.S. president. And of course, what we're seeing here is not a brand new threat. What the U.S. president here is doing, he's going back to past statements and to an attitude from the U.S. president that only changed a few months ago, precisely at that moment when the North Korean leader invited the U.S. president to meet with him. Remember past statements from the U.S. president calling Kim Jong-un the little rocket man and indeed threatening his country with total destruction. He did so openly, and he did so at the UN General Assembly at that same podium. So what we're seeing here is a return to past statements by the White House and by the U.S. president. Worryingly, of course, what we're seeing here is a threat, if it is indeed one, literally addressed directly to the North Korean leader. What we're seeing is a return to previous statements, but also a previous tone, probably the tone that was used by the U.S. president in the past when he insulted the North Korean leader, and the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, then insulted the U.S. president in return. That is something that might very well be in the offing again. We'll have to wait and see exactly how that develops. Importantly, though, at the end of this letter, and almost strangely enough in very unpresidential language, what we're seeing there is the U.S. president basically telling Kim Jong-un, if you ever change your mind when it comes to this summit that we had planned for the 12th of June in Singapore, then write to me or call me. Those are literally the words used by the U.S. president. Now, what he's doing there also, by the way, between the lines, he's inferring that there might well have been direct communication between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un in the past. That is a question that the U.S. president has been asked many, many times, and that he so far has refused to answer. It's a bit of a worrying letter, this one, from the U.S. president, but at the same time, as we said before, he's trying to get the upper hand here in him being the one who cancels the summit and not Kim Jong-un.